Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to implement dynamic icons in FlutterFlow. When working with FlutterFlow, you want to give your users as much flexibility as possible. FlutterFlow currently supports things like file picker, but they don't have a means for you to give users the ability to select the icons that they want to use. So let's say you're creating something like say a productivity app and you want people to be able to set the icons to maybe the tags or whatever thing that they want to do. There's no possibility for you to do that because you cannot pass down icons dynamically. You may have to do it manually within the application. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can achieve that easily. But first, let me demonstrate and show you what we are going to achieve by the end of this video. So by the end of this video, we're going to have a simple interface like this where users can select their icon. Let's say we select on this, I don't know if it's comments or chat. We select on this icon, you can see it has been selected here. You can reduce the size of the icon. Clearly see that as it's reducing, or we can increase it to the full. And we can also customize the color of that icon, right? You can go with green, or you can go with this orange, or we can go with say the red, for example, right? This is the kind of functionality that we're going to get by the end of this video. So right here, this is a list of icons that we have here being displayed. Another beautiful thing I have going on here is this button at the top left here. If I click on the button, it's actually going to open up a color pack. But actually set the icon colors. When that is done, you should have all our icons. Now, this is another view of the icon picker, so you can have like all of these with the names of the icons displayed that the user can easily see or even possibly search. So a lot of the resources that I'm going to be talking about will be available on my Buy Me a Coffee link. It'll be down in the description below. So thank you very much. Let's get into it. So this is a package that we are going to use. And as you can clearly see here, it is compatible for both iOS, Linux, Mac, Web, and Windows. So the package is pretty much up to date. It's just a few lines of code that I need to just implement to have this functional. So I'm going to leave like this application that we are going to do and a couple of other applications I'm doing on my Buy Me a Coffee link. I think it'll be down in the description that you can check out. Let's get into my FlutterFlow and let me show you the application that we're going to do. So right here, I'm just going to use like the FlutterFlow page generation to actually create a simple page. So I'm going to say new page creation, and I'll describe a page because I don't want to go designing UI, right? I think this is one of the useful things I have about this FlutterFlow AI tool. If you want me to demonstrate how we can generate like beautiful user interfaces using this FlutterFlow AI tools, I can make a video about that. But yeah, let's get our page up. So I'm going to do something as simple as let's say a page that shows a list of icons. Let me say, I don't know, I'm just trying to be very generic. That can be selected. It is search bar and a color picker and icon preview by the site. I don't know what this is going to generate, but let's see. I think you should understand the context of the kind of page that we want and then generate it very well. So let's give that a second. Okay. Whoa, that's a lot. Well, that's a lot. Anyways, yeah, okay. Well, this is a very beautiful interface. And let me just accept it. We are just going to try to work with what we get. So let's say icon picker. We call it icon picker. This is a lot. Create page. I'm going to give it a 4-star. All right, so this is how this page looks like. We're going to try to work with it. So we have a list of the icons here. We have our search bar above. They'll have our icon preview. We can increase the size. We can increase the color. We can select the color and then select the icon. This is overall a very beautiful user interface. So in a couple of seconds, we're going to be replacing all of these things, all of these generic icons with the kind of icons that can be customized. All right. Before we get into it, let me just show you how difficult this was before for you to do icon picker. So if you see like here, this button, for example, this button here, we have something we call we have the action on this button initiates a color picker, right? Initiates a color picker. We don't have any actions that can probably prompt for icons. Let me search for icon. There is nothing that search for icons. These are just pages that I have. Icon pickers and icons. These are just pages. So if we want to use components, right? If we want to add here like an icon, let me just add a column, an icon down here. Icon, select this icon. There is no way for us to pass this icon dynamically. We must specify the icon manually by using one of the icons that we have, either material or font awesome, or if we have a custom icon, then we can select that. So there's no way that we can do this. If so, want to use something like a custom component, the best a component can allow us to do is probably specify the parameter as this thing, as an icon. But now we cannot pass the icon dynamically to that parameter. Let me say selected icon, for example. And we say this parameter is of type icon. And let's say it's required. Then we'll confirm. This is our component. I'm going to use a column container like this and then just add the icon inside. This is like traditionally, this is the best way that we could do it. And then for here, we can tie the icon properties to this parameter that we set in the component parameter. That way, for us to be able to use this FF on our page, let me come here on this page. For us to be able to use this FF here, F, this is it. For us to be able to use this component here, we need to pass the icon here again manually, right? Before it gets reflected into that component. So this is not a very sustainable way of doing it. And I'm going to show you how you can implement it in a way that you can just allow the users pick, they select what they want, it gets registered. So let's get into it. Right. So this is our icon picker page. Now, like I mentioned, this thing makes use of a single this package, the material design icon flutter package. This is the package, and this is all the code that we have to do. A typical example here, you see we have a return, we are returning an icon button with the icon new MIDI icons and then dot sword. This particular word sword can be replaced with a text like you see here. This is an example if you want to access the icon by a string name. So we are going to be exposing a list of strings to the user. Therefore, like we're using this makes use of material icon. So a list of all the names of material icons, basically, right? We're going to be exposing that to the user in a way that that particular string is going to be populated into this custom widget. And when the user clicks on that icon, that widget is going to take overwrite and then be as a selection. So let's go into implementing the custom widget. So back here over to my FlutterFlow application, I'm just going to come over here to the widget section and I'm going to say add new widget and I'm going to say custom icon. Let's just call it like that, that widget I want to create. And should it receive any parameter, let's say it should receive the icon name. Let's call it icon name. It's a string, of course. It can be null. Let's say the color. So the color of the icon, and let's call this as color. As you can see, it can be null too. But again, we are going to like do our null safety and give them default values. That's no problem. So let's call the next one. Let's call this one says size. Therefore, the size of the icon is different from the size of this widget. We want to be able to specify the size of the icon. It's also going to have default values. So this is going to be a double, right? So the icon is going to be an equal ratio like 45 or 48 or 24. And it can also be nullable. And the last thing now, let's add a callback function, right? A callback function that is going to be executed each time the icon gets clicked. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm going to tie that and I'm going to say the callback. Let me say, I'm just going to call it func like that. Yeah. And let's call this an action. This is an action that's going to be executed. And this action has a parameter, right? The parameter should be the icon name, which is a string that has been returned. Please, if you're not following so far, when I put everything together, you're going to understand how it actually works. So please just stay around. So I'm going to say elected icon string, right? Which is the name of the icon. And this is a string, which can also be nullable. So let's just leave everything like that. And I'm going to copy this boilerplate code. Now, if you've seen here, I already have this material design icon. But if you don't have it in your code, you need to actually copy this thing from pubdev, right? You need to actually copy the dependency like this and then include it in your dependency file. So when you include it, then you do the fetching. But since I already have it, I'm just going to leave it like that. So let's copy the boilerplate code and then add this is the boilerplate code. Then I'm going to save the widget. So this is the code that we're going to be working with. This is the starting point of our application. So right here, we can start editing our code. So the first thing I'm going to do is probably just import the package since we already have it here. So I'm going to add our import statement. So I'm copying this and I'll just add our statement here to import the package that we've already pulled down to FlutterFlow. Next, here we are currently returning a container. So I'm just going to, this is very simple. It is already available here. So I'm just going to return the icon button, like all of this statement, as you can see here. So I'm going to copy this and paste down here. So instead of return container, I'm going to return this. And don't forget, this is all we need, right? So instead of, see, this icon, again, let's go over it again. We're returning a new icon button, and the new icon button takes this easy icons whatsoever thing from string, and then the string that I want to pass inside is SWOT. So we need to replace this SWOT by the actual string that we got, like actual name of the icon. So if we want fire, then it should be fire inside here. If we want person, it should be person inside here. You're going to be wondering, if you just input any random thing, will it actually work? No, it's not going to work. This actually has to be a material icon, right? It has to be the name of a material icon. Now there are several places that you can find these names. For example, if you enter to materialicon.google, I think so, you should be able to see a list of these material icons. But you know, this thing exists in version, so you might actually go and use an icon that was not available, right? So I'm going to show you where you can get this list of strings that you can actually use and populate your icon set. So this is where on Google Fonts here, you can actually see the list of material icons that are there. They are also available on other material design platform website. So you can see, like, for example, if you use settings, you should expect to see an icon like this. But now, how do you actually get the real name that you want to use in this custom function, in this custom widget? Now on pressed here, simply just says using the SWOT, right? It simply prints a single string. But we want to actually tie this on press to call our function that we have passed, right? That is what we want to actually do to execute. So let's go ahead and edit the code and see how this plays out. Anyways, I can actually show you how this is going to look like. So we currently have fire here, fire being displayed here. Let me just replace this string with our icon name. So I'm going to do that by calling widget dot. So it's as simple as widget dot icon name. Otherwise, if there's no this thing pass, I'm going to just send in love, the string love. So let me send this. It'll be easy for us to, but let me say heart. I think the actual this thing is heart. So let's leave heart as the default icon that is going to be displayed. So I'm going to save this and compile. Now, if we implement this in our code, in our page here, the page that we just generated, we should be able to see this icon that we are passing a value to, right? Now I'm just going to come over to this column and add that custom widget that we just created, the custom icon widget. So I'm going to click here, then come over here and right over here, and this is our custom widget that we created, custom icon, right? Now it receives 5 parameters that are optional. So we are not making use of all of them yet, but let's specify the width and say it should be, let's say 40. This is just like the default width and height that the widget should occupy. And then for the icon name, remember by default we had hat as the icon name. So I'm going to do something different. I'm going to input something like let me take, for example, the name of this thing, home, or say, yeah, let me say home, right? This is an example of an icon name. So let me write home here, and we should be able to see this icon displayed with the home icon displayed down here. So home. One beautiful thing you have to note with this widget, like that this package, is that it doesn't matter if the icon name is all lowercase or capital case, or I think space, if it has space, as long as the name is correct, it is going to actually pull. And as you can see here, we have the icon, like the home icon shown down here, right? This is the idea, and this is what we're going to use to build this interface that you're seeing here. So let's get into the actual working. So right here, you may be wondering how to get this list of string, or where you can get them. So there is this repository that I found online. This is the repository, and it has the ID of the icon, access point, FF. I'm going to paste the link down below, or it's going to be to on my buy me a coffee, all of this. Now, this repository is very, very big, right? If you look at the raw file, it is very, very big. It's around, I think, 4 megabytes. It's just a string. Imagine a string that huge in your application. I'm not just saying so. I've actually tried using it as it is like this, but it is too big that it's making the application to lag. So what I did was I went ahead and just extracted just the name, right? Just the name that we have here of all of these access points. So of all of these icon names rather. So I extracted all the names and then I have a list of all the names. Look at how it's big. It's making my screen go dark. It is too big to even be rendered correctly. Again, although this repository has been archived, most of these icon names still work. So what I did is I have a list of these. Now you can try by just maybe eliminating the path, right? This path is just like the SVG path that I can use to actually draw the icon. Now we have aliases. For example, if you want to use an alias, like you want to search, implement search, you are going to make use of these aliases. Like in case when you search for wireless, then this access point icon is going to still show. When you search for something like, let's come here, for example, a person or a user, this icon with the name account is still going to show. So you can leave like those two, the aliases and the name of the icon in your JSON list. So let me show you what I actually composed. So right here is a list of all of these, the name of those icons and their aliases. You see, it's very, very huge. So look at how far it goes here. If I try to scroll, it's very, very huge. Even though I've extracted just the name and the aliases, it is still very huge. So for this demonstration, I'm going to be working with the first 50 icon list, right? So we have the first 50. So I've just like created a random 50 and I'm going to be working with them. So this is the list of arrays that we're going to use in this application. Now let me just highlight something and show you guys. If say you wanted to use like the original like list of icons from GitHub, from this GitHub repository, you can actually make an API call to the URL that calls it. For example, this is a URL up here. I don't know if you can see it very well, but this is URL to that GitHub repository. So you can actually make a call to that, a get request to that URL to get the icons. Again, like I mentioned, this is going to be very big and it may not be applicable in your use case. So this is an example API call that calls this URL to where the JSON file is. So if I simply call this test API call, it is going to fetch that list of objects that has the icon name, tags, aliases, or whatsoever. So this is very, very big. Again, you don't want to use that for your use case. So back in our application here, I'm just going to continue with the implementation. So we've already seen how we can display our icon and have it show on our listing on our interface. So what I'm going to do is go along and then further include properties like the size that is being passed, right? Like custom size of the icon that is being passed, the callback function and whatnot for us to be able to use it in this interface. So let's modify the code to actually be able to use all those parameters. So this is going to look something like this. Now for the callback function, we also need to execute the callback function. So on pressed, I want us to execute the callback function. So I'm going to do widget dot call. Our function is called widget dot func. Again, since the function is null, we have to do our null check. So I'm just going to add this exclamation here. Let me scroll up. I don't think I can scroll any further. And I'm also going to pass the parameter. Therefore, the parameter that has been selected is widget selected at that current time is the widget dot icon name. This is what we want to pass here. So each time a widget is selected, then this thing, our callback is going to be executed. So I'm going to save that and compile. And I think we are done already with our custom code. So this is all the code that we need. We are using our icon name. We are using the color. We are using the size. If I can see a widget.size, this is where we specify the color to widget.color. Otherwise, we use blue. The size, otherwise, we use 24 and whatnot. So this is the interface that we want to use. And over here, I'm going to come back into our application and we already have this wrap that has the list of all of these icons. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete all of these icons, delete them so that will clean space and then generate our children dynamically from the list of string that we're going to get as the icon names. So let me do that. So right here inside this wrap, I'm going to replace this icon that we have inside this container with the actual icon that we are taking from our our custom widget. So I can just drag that inside here. I think it should stand and it's asking me to replace, then I'm replacing it with that. So all our icons now should be here. So now there are various ways in which you can handle the JSON array that we have. You can choose to probably host it on your own, just host the array so that you're pulling from it to call like an API call to get the list. You can save it as an app state. What I like to do is just have it as a custom function, right? So I'm going to create a custom function here and I'll say it's a function, yes, and I'll say return icon list. I'm just going to call it like that. What it simply does is it returns a list of, what do you call this thing? Data types, JSON, a list of JSON. So it's list and it cannot be nullable. And what I'll do is just write something as simple as return. And what it returns is the list that we have. So let me copy it from here. Let me copy it from here. This is our JSON input. So I'm going to copy this, and this is what I want our custom function to return. Just this simple list. Something as simple as that. Now you see, this is good. Now I can choose to do something like maybe create a data type based on the name and aliases so that it's easy for me to understand or whatsoever. But I think I'm going to just save it like that. I think this is good. Like this is what I want, and that's all. That's all the setup that you need. Now in our application, what I'm going to do is inside this wrap, I'm going to generate children, right? Inside this wrap, I'm going to generate children based on that list that the custom function is going to return. Again, this can be you generating it from wherever you want, right? So I'm going to come here under our wrap. And I'm going to say generate children. And I'll say icons. And the source, like where it's coming from, is going to be from our custom function. And its a custom function is return icon list. This is it. That returns a list of JSON. And I'm going to do confirm. This is all I need. Then save. Perfect. Now we are going to have that this thing is being generated. Now for each icon, custom icon widget that we have here, I want to pass in the properties. So currently have the width at 4040. The icon name is home, but I need to specify the icon name dynamically so that it's going to be fetching from that list that we returned initially. So I'm going to specify it as icon item JSON path is simply dot name, something like that. Default variable, I'm just going to do home. May just be the default anyways, it's okay. Confirm. Then for the color, I can specify the color, but I want it to be all let me say primary. Let's leave it as all primary. And for the size, I want the size to be say 30. Let the icon size be 30. And for our custom function, we need a custom sorry, for our callback action, we need an action that is going to be executed each time an icon is clicked. So let's create that. So for our action, I just need, since our action has a parameter string that it passes through, I'm just going to create a page state here called selected icon string whatsoever, just like how we have it in that callback action. So I'm saying icon name again. Let me just call it icon name, for example, which is a string. Remember, this is used to keep, and for by default is going to be home. Let me give it a default of home. Remember, this is going to be the string that is going to be used to identify which icon has been selected. So right here, let's create our callback. Our callback is executing the callback, and we're updating our, how we calling this thing, our page state. What state are we updating? This icon name. Set the value to be equal to the icons item, cancel. It should be the returns. This is it, the callback parameters, the selected icon string. So each time you click, this value is going to be updated. And this is all we need for our setup, right? I'm planning to do a video regarding how you can use this callback by other callbacks within your widgets or within your custom code. So if that's an idea that you're interested to for me to utilize, for me to follow up with, just let me know down in the comments. So this is what we have here. We currently have our icons being displayed in this wrap. Let me compile this custom function and let's test it to see how icons are going to be displayed. Right. So let's get it going. So here, one thing I just like to do simple is just replace this text here with the page state that we are keeping track of. Right. The page state of icon name. Just so we see a visibility. Like if we actually click, let's see something happen. So I think it's done compiling. Let me reload. And in a couple of seconds, we should have our preview updated here with the real icons that we are getting from our icon list. Oh, look at this overlay. I did not see that. And boom, look at that. Look at how beautiful this looks. I think this is, and I bet it's responsive. So this is one useful thing that I like with the FlutterFlow generator, what it did. The page generation, right? You see, it is responsive, right? So if we click on this good, like this icon, we expect it to change here to show another name, check outline, right? So click on this, expect it to show another icon name. Some of these icons that are missing are probably like outdated naming. So yeah, you can figure out how to clean the string or the JSON list to fix that. Now let's go as far as showing the icon that has been selected here and also being able to modify the size, right? And also probably selecting the color. Again, but this is just like the basics of what we want to do with this application. This is like you can use this functionality to adapt it in whatever use case that you have for your application. So let's get back into FlutterFlow. So right here, since we've already verified that when we click on an icon, the name is being shown here, we just simply need another how you call it, another widget inside here of size 60. Let's just try to replicate this interface. So I'm just going to click inside here to replace this icon with our custom widget icon. So this is what we have. Custom icon, click on it, replace, and I'm just going to immediately pass in the size as, let me do 62. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Now for the color, we want to tie the color dynamically with this, how do you call it, with this wrap that we have for list of colors here, something like this size. We want to tie it with this slider. Again, as you clearly saw, I did not build this interface. I'm just adapting it to show you how we can actually do. Initial value should be 62. We had it. Initial value to be 62. Our maximum should be, let's say, 100. And our minimum should be 24. I like that. So initial value 62. I think we're beyond the range here. So if we have this is a simple interface that we can use to actually tie the size of this custom widget, icon widget that we have here to the size of this slider. So what I'm going to do is come here on the custom icon. Then for the size, I'm going to replace this with widget state, the slider, this slider. So if you are dragging this thing, you should actually see the size of how the icon is getting bigger. And I'm just going to do like just one of these things so you can actually, well, the idea is the same. So if we click on this, we need to keep track of these colors. So I'm just going to tie a simple action here to keep track of icon color. Let's say icon color, and I'm going to set it as color like this. It's nullable, yes, yes, but let's give it a default of primary. Confirm. Well, it's not nullable. Let's just make it not nullable and give it a default of this yellow. So each time if we click on this green, the color should change. So I'm just going to implement just that. I'm going to do update page state, state management, update page state, and we want to update the icon color, set value to be, I think, secondary, right? Secondary. Click on this. Now we can do this for all of these other things. So I'm just going to simply copy this action and paste across all these other colors, the actions on these other colors, and then update the specific color, right? And this is basically what we need. And with that done, don't forget to pass your string here, the icon name, to be the page state that we had here that we are updating. So don't forget to pass that. And for the color of this icon, don't forget to set it dynamically from this page state of item color like this. We already have, then we can eliminate this custom function because we are not necessarily using it. So let me just do an 80 for the height since FlutterFlow requires that. And this is all the configuration that we need. Save. Again, we can implement search, right? Do a simple search on that particular, let me reload while I'm talking. You can do a simple search on that particular list of icons that is being returned for anything matching the aliases. That's a functionality that I've implemented and it works very well. So I think this is basically what we want. And maybe if the user clicks on select icon, what you have to do is just take simply the name of the icon, or you can construct a new property of that icons like the icon name, the size that the user selected, the color of the icon, and whatnot, and save in your database or wherever you need that data to appear in. And just like that, you should have a very beautiful custom icon selector. Again, there are so many ways that you can use this. I may not be able to cover all in this video, but you've seen the idea and how you can utilize it. So let's demonstrate that and see how it actually works. So we currently have home here. So let me click on this one and we should have it update here. Yes, you see gesture tab. I'm going to reduce the size. It reduces and I'm going to drag it up. Again, it goes, change the color. see it changes actually. So this is an idea of what we can do with this. I think this is beautiful, and this is a very reasonable explanation or of how you can achieve this. Anyways, let me know what you guys think and what video you want me to do next. Again, a lot of these resources are going to be available on my buy me a coffee page, so I'm going to post in that. I'm also trying to do like the templates, the applications I'm working on, I'm sharing them there, so you can just probably check it out. You don't have to subscribe to become a member every month, although if I have more people I maybe learn to probably create materials curated for you guys. But yeah, that's how you can support me so far. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about this video and how you're going to be using this implementation. If you like this video, again, please consider subscribing, hit that like button, share, watch other videos, just do something to support me. But yeah, that's the idea. Thank you very much and see you around.